Hey, I see green. That means, oh, there we go. I got my light on. It still seems dark in here. Oh, I don't have my overhead on. That's fine. I don't need that. I got my, obviously have my, this is for when I'm doing the pattern so you can see my hands. Everybody hear me okay? I checked the streaming right now. It was like at, my up speed was 11 megabytes, which is really good. Yeah, Michigan just the governor. You can't buy garden. You can't buy seeds. They're trying to limit the people going to stores because that's where you're going to come most likely to get in contact with people. But it's pretty draconian. People are pretty mad. It's like, and a mower is like whenever when they finally really do lift the stay-at-home order, the grass is going to be this high in everybody's yard. You're going to have to hire the state to come in and maybe that's their plan. You have to call the state guy. I'm just waiting for a few more people to get online. I was working on some TV stuff, and I do this thing where I use an EBO. Let's see, where is it? So, wow, is it really that quiet? Oh, it is pretty quiet. Let me turn this up. So I'll take like an EBO and a slide, and then I create a sound that has lots of reverb and stuff. Just like, let's see if you can hear that. Can you hear that at all? It's cool because if you have a lot of reverb, you can do you can do like just sit on a note and then just kind of move it around a little bit, just a little below and a little above. It's very cool special effects. And I like it because I can kind of control the pitch. It's going to ring forever now. I can kind of control the pitch. And a lot of times, if I'm using a slide and EBO, I will have a tuner turned on so that I can make sure my pitch is right because sometimes I can't hear myself. I posted the rules and I just broke one. I don't know if it's a break over my Tom Commandments. Whose idea was that? Somebody said the Tom Commandments. That was pretty funny. So I quoted you. Hey, David, I see you there. Diane, Kathy, Bruce, Reed, Bonnie, Roger, Pepper, Gary, DK. It's like, wow, it's just Chris. Everybody's here. Hook, Ab, AK. Everybody's here. But, it's 33 people. I'm seeing about 10, 15 names in here of familiar people. Some people are probably watching on their phones, so they can't really chat. Dan, you're there. Hey. Jim Lee. David Silars. Silars, probably. I don't know. I oversipped last night. That's funny. A friend of mine posted something about on Facebook. He posted something like, well, I now know how many drinks it takes before I order enough orange cones to actually change the traffic in my city. On Amazon, he apparently ordered a bunch of orange cones for some reason. It's like, oh my gosh, it's funny. I wonder if anybody ever you've heard of drunk texting. I wonder if anybody ever drunk orders from Amazon and then they get a package 2 days later and like, what? I'm sure it's happened. Yeah, it's kind of like a whale singing kind of vibe. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we used to do that with like I could just do it with a backwards bend. Like I've got a volume pedal on right now. Okay, so my foot's on a volume pedal. So if I do like I bend up and then bend down, it kind of now I got a lot of reverb and delay. If you're looking for good reverbs, I would recommend Valhalla. They're great. You can download them. They work with pretty much any DAW. Valhalla. Valhalla. You can DSP. I think it's the website DSP. They anything they put out, I buy. Anything they've never charged more than $50 for any of their reverbs, and they do have some free plugins. So you can go there. They probably have 2 or 3 different plugins that are free that are kind of cool, like weird, like a flanger thing and another weird echo thing. And they just came out with a delay unit. They're kind of known for their reverbs. They have a thing called the shimmer, which is just weird reverbs put through pitch changers. And then they have their vintage reverb. They have their room reverb that has millions of rooms and things like that. And then they also have the plate reverb, which I really like. Plate reverbs were reverbs that were used largely in the 70s and 80s. They kind of went out of fashion for a while, but a lot of times it's hard to get a good 70s or 80s sound without a plate reverb or a plate reverb simulation. Most people don't have plate reverbs lying around. They were like big box, like a big box with a spring, and then I'm not even sure how they work, but usually they would have them upstairs or in a basement or something like that, or in another room. And then they would send a signal to it and it would create reverb, and then they would send a signal and record the signal. And it was that kind of thing. They have reverb chambers. I think there's a video somewhere on YouTube about who's the record producer, Hall of Fame reverb. Yeah. Yeah, that on the floor. I'm talking about, this is for plugins for computer. The Hall of Fame reverb, I think, is, dang it, I can see it. I had one for a little while. I borrowed a friend just to see if I wanted one, but I don't really use it. Oh, Diane, yeah, this. So anyway, the what was it? The reverb chamber, the reverb. They would actually have a room, and they'd put a speaker on one end and a mic on the other end, and it would be covered in plexiglass. Who was the guy that was the record producer in the 60s, the Wall of Sound producer, the guy that is in prison now because he shot a girl? And he actually did that a lot with people who would hold guns to their heads and stuff like that. And then finally he shot somebody. I'm sure someone knows it. I just can't think of it. In fact, he lived on the hill. He had a mansion on a hill in Alhambra, probably the richest person in Alhambra. Phil Spector. Thank you, Rick. I knew someone would get that. Now I'm going to see Phil Spector 3-4 times right there. Yeah, Phil Spector. I never worked for him. But yeah, it was pretty common that he would always have guns in the sessions, and he was a pretty crazy, insane guy, pretty much always insane. And he was a big reason the Wrecking Crew became what they were, because he would hire them, and he would sometimes have 20 musicians on a session. It's pretty fascinating. I've read a couple books about him. He produced the Let It Be, and they didn't really like it, so they redid it recently. Let It Be Naked, I think, was the remake of the remix of Let It Be. But let's see. Yeah, Paul Becker. Hey, Paul Becker's on here. Hey, Paul. Good to see you, kind of. Good to be seen by you. So today we are going to do a review of everything we've done so far. It's not everything we've done with fingerpicking the last 4 days. Just I want to review. Maybe I'm going to spend some time. I'll try. It's really hard. I get patient. I think I'm sitting here playing the pattern slowly, and I see the numbers go up and down, and then up and down, because it just looks like me just playing guitar. So if I'm not teaching, a lot of times you can take a drink now because I changed guitars. Cheers. So let me see. The rules are, if I touch my face, change guitar, forget tuning, if I refer to myself in the third person, if I use air quotes, that doesn't count. Or if I say I had a band in high school called whatever, then you take a sip. Did I teach Grace Potter? Why does that name sound familiar? Who's Grace Potter? William. Is she an artist, or is she just someone who maybe took lessons from me like a million years ago? Oh, right. Apex. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll add that to the list. Okay. I just mentioned that I played all the guitars in Apex Legend. Played guitars in Apex. Okay. That's just to impress the young people. Boy, that name sounds Grace Potter. Boy, that name sounds really familiar. I'll look her up. I don't. Maybe I did. Did she say I did? Because I had a lot of students. I mean, when I left Indiana, I had 40 students a week. I was teaching 5 days a week, and they were all pretty much half-hour students. I think I had 1 or 2 hour students, but most of them were half-hour students. So that was 20 hours a week of teaching. And I was making, I think, how much was I making? They were charging $7 a student, and I think I was making $4.50 a student per half hour. So I was making like $9 an hour, which was probably 3 times minimum wage at that point. And that was pretty good for someone who dropped out of college, you know, basically 20 years old. Harry Potter's long lost cousin, I guess. Yeah, exactly. So she's from California. So yeah, and then here I taught a lot of a lot of students, particularly people from. Let me look her up real quick. Now that you're saying it, I'm like, I don't know. Grace Potter. The name sounds familiar. Nocturnals. So where's she from originally? That would probably tell me. If she's from Pasadena or La Cañada or... See, I'm not seeing... Where is her Wikipedia page? Government music... Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look. She might be a student. I don't know. Anyway, I haven't... I've worked with some actors for TV roles where they have to pretend to play. I've done that quite a bit. Yeah, 75 cents an hour pretty much is what I made for babysitting back in the day too, I think. That sounds about right. Yeah, and I'm not a big minimum wage laws are kind of, I thank God that my first job paid as little as it did, or I'd still be doing it. To pay minimum wage laws are kind of weird because they can really create a false floor for a wage that I wouldn't want to doom someone. That checker who's making $35 an hour, she could have cured cancer, but if she's making $35 an hour at the grocery store, why would she go to med school? I don't know. Whatever. It's going to happen. What's going to happen? So we're going to. So what I have been doing, I've been very sneaky. I'm trying to teach you how to read music at the same time I'm teaching you finger picking patterns. I felt like this was a good time to do that because we're going to be using the same 2 chords, so you can start to recognize. You can start to recognize the notes on the staff as you're playing the patterns. And so instead of writing out tablature, I'm writing out the finger picking patterns in music notation so that you start to see it and it starts to sink in. And like I've said, every time we do a pattern and then we look at the music notation for it, it looks like it sounds, which is the great thing about music notation, whereas tab doesn't always do that. So, so now we're getting something that a skill that you can transfer to many, many, many different things, different styles of music. There's lots of music for classical guitar and jazz music that will never be written out in tab. It's just not a thing. And so that'll open up all sorts of doors for you. And we talked about this before too. Somebody was asking me about what book yesterday. And one of the things I did a video recently about teaching yourself how to read. You can totally pick up something like a book that's intended for a child. Mel Bay's book number 1 or Alfred's Basic Guitar Method book number 1. And both of those are very, very simple. They start out very rudimentary, really made for, 8-year-olds, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids. I used them when I had students that were that age. I always used a book like that because it gave them something to practice. It gave me something that was very focused that the kid could, and the parent would always want to know, what are they supposed to practice? It's not quite as vague as learning how to play Stairway to Heaven or something like that, where you've got to practice this thing. Oh, God, I'd be careful. I don't want to play. If I play too many notes of that, it'll definitely trigger a copyright issue. So I haven't heard back on, it's past the 8. Well, of course, with the COVID thing, the YouTube says it may take longer to approve or to turn off. Yeah, I still got a copyright claim for a video from 20 days ago from the live stream where I played the classical guitar piece that was literally 500 years old. And I got a copyright infringement on that. And I'm like, by somebody who claims they wrote it, or a production company that claims they, and to me, that's just unbelievably ridiculous. So it was actually a library company that recorded it. And they changed YouTube. What? Oh, I don't want to watch a video. Thank you very much. I'll do it later. Okay. So where is that video? Because I haven't posted it still because there was still a copyright claim on it. Yeah, that one I expect. Oh, wait. Hey, they took off the copyright claim. Cool. Okay, I'll make that public later today. It's a jam track. It's bluegrass jam track in D at 100 beats per minute. It did say 30 days, and I'm assuming when I made the it was 2 songs too. I told you this. It was 2 songs that made the claim against the one song, and I'm like, well, why aren't they making claims against each other if they're claiming against me and it said copied the melody, and I'm like, there's no melody. It's me strumming 3 chords with a drum machine and a digital bass. And I even intentionally doubled the guitar, played the guitar part twice and kind of had more fun with one than the other and kind of made it sound like 2 guitar players so that it wouldn't trigger any kind of electronic bot thing. And I literally, within 5 minutes of posting it, I had copyright claims. And I literally, wrote it, recorded the same day. So my frustration with that. But hey, I'm glad I didn't lose. I have yet to lose. I'm undefeated. So that's good. So the first thing I showed you when we were talking about these finger picking patterns and using music notation to help you learn them is I kind of showed you the thing you learn pretty much in grade school if you were to study music at all, which is the lines of the staff. These are staves. Staff, plural is staves, or staves, actually, probably staves. S-T-A-V-E-S. I don't know. I think you could say either. I've heard either. Anyway, the lines are E, G, B, D, F, which the common thing when I grew up was every good boy does fine, or every good boy deserves fudge. And then the spaces were F-A-C-E, spelling the word face. Now, with the finger picking patterns, we're actually going below where the chords we're using are C. So we've got a ledger line here and the note and that's a C, and E is, from here. And then G, C, and E, and that's the C chord. The standard C chord that you play, that is this. This is how that's played. That's how that's written in music notation. And then the G7 over B that we're using, there's 2 versions, but this is the one that is played like this. And then the version, if you can't do that one, if your pinky won't grab that 3rd fret on the 2nd string, then we can do this one. All right. And that one's a little bit easier. And that would have, instead of this D right here, it would be this open B string. Okay. But now we have a line, a note under the ledger line, which is B, which makes sense because B is below C, right? B, C, D, E. There's no F in this, but there's a G. Here's a C here. Here's a D. Here's a E. And here's an F. So we have almost every one of these notes represented just in these 2 chords. Okay. So and then when we start looking at these when we start hearing these finger picking patterns, and I've uploaded these first 5 pages they're on our Discord. Sorry. I'm behind the video. Times don't match the chat. Oh, okay. DK has a very good question. A very good. It better be very good question. Okay. Okay. So no, 7/4 is not 7 notes in the time it takes to play 4 notes. No. That would be a subdivision of 7 or 5. But 7/4 would be 7 quarter notes. 7/4 would be 7 quarter notes in a bar. So 7 beats in a bar. In the case of 1/2 example, 2 would get 1 beat, and for a quarter note, and would be 4 beats in this case. I'm not sure what the so if you want to play triplets, you could write 9/8 is 8. Yeah, now 9/8 would be 3/4 with triplets. 12/8 would be 4/4 with triplets. Like a common, in fact, these are all these. Let's see, that would be 4 quarter. This is 4 quarter notes. This is 4/4. All of these are in 4/4. But this is 4/4. But these are triplets. But I'm not writing a little 3 up here. But you could also call this 12/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, you could technically call 16/16 notes 16/16, but nobody ever does that. You could call it 8/8/8, but it's 4/4, and that's even why I group with the bars, the double bars. I group the 16th notes in groupings of 4, so you can clearly see the 4/4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. But 7/4 would be not 7 beats in the space of 4. That's something different. That would be written like you could write 7 quarter notes in 4/4 and then put a big bracket over it and write 7. And that way you have to, and I couldn't even play it. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to do that. I mean, I could do 5s, kind of 5 in a space of a quarter note, or 5/5 in a space of 4 is complex. That's very complex timing though. But 4/4 is also known as common time. You could see if you write Pepper, if you saw a C, that means 4/4. Sip, what did I do? Did I touch my face? I missed something. Hook says sip. I didn't refer to myself in the third person. So hopefully that kind of answers DK. Oh wait, that was DK's question. So if the bottom number 3/4 would be 3 quarter notes exactly. Oh, I see. You guys are going on this. A quarter note. Yeah. Yeah. And when they talk about quarter note, kind of, you can think of it in 4/4, it's a quarter of a bar. Okay, so we're done with this page. So this is the first pattern we're going to do. And basically, we're going to play the C chord. And we're going to grab the top 2 strings with our first finger is going to get the second string. And their second finger is going to get the first string. And then the thumb is going to grab the 5th string, then the 4th string, then the 3rd string, then the 5th string. And then we'll stay on this for a minute, and then we're going to go to this. Like I said, I wish I could almost have this, I could probably rig something up so that would be in the corner. I don't know. Anyway, that's what we're going to play. I'll go slow so you can see it. I'm going to turn on this light. My portal to Starbucks. All right. Okay. I see that helps a little bit so you can see my finger here. Yeah, that works pretty good. All right. So make the C chord that we all know and love. We're not going to change. I'll stay on the C chord. Grab the bass note here. St. Arbucks, right? So it's the thumb is going to play the 5th string, and then the index finger is going to grab this string, and it's kind of like a claw. We're just going to claw all at the same time, and then the second finger is going to get the top string. And maybe do this. Just practice the couple things here. Just practice grabbing the 5th string and the top 2 strings, and practice moving your arm up and down and noticing the tone change. My hair is a mess. Look at that. We just went for like a 15 or 12,000 step walk. I walked all the way down with my wife so she could get a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And I walked there all the way there with my Starbucks. So if you do that, you can see it. Okay, now, then what we want to do is we need 4 quarter notes. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That might be too fast. 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I go G7. 1, 2, 3, 4 back to C. 2, 3, 4 back to G7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Oh yeah, that's a bummer, David. Yeah, because there's no drive-thrus in Manhattan. They actually have a Starbucks at our Ralph's grocery store that's open. So that one's across the street from the one that's a drive-thru. But I hate to drive 1 minute to wait in line for 20 minutes to get coffee. Bonnie, you taking off? Oh, Pepper, you're taking off? All right, see you later. Have fun at your lesson. No, sorry, Bonnie. I thought you were taking off. No. Okay. Now, the next pattern was the same. Everything's the same here, except we're going to break these up. We're going to go thumb, first, second. Thumb, first, second. Thumb, first, second. Thumb, first, second. So you could think of it as, if we're going to keep track of where the downbeats are, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, really even, 4 triplet. You don't want to go 1. That would be a different pattern, or that would be a different rhythm. That would be 2 16th notes and an 8th note. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and. No quiz on that. Okay. So now, sorry, I'm doing the wrong one. Let's see the triple one again. So I'm going to change to the G over B chord. If you can do that with me, great. If not, just stay on the C chord. Or you can go with all open strings if you don't even want to worry about your left hand. Not critical. You can do all these patterns. The goal is to develop complete, independence with your fingers and skills with your right hand. The other thing, if this is really too easy for you and you can do all this, you can go faster, whatever, practice putting the accent on different beats. So like try to put the accent on your first finger, like this. That's exaggerated, but that's an actual very useful skill when it comes to playing melodies on the guitar. And somebody asked me to do, I'm not sure it was, asked me to do a lesson on, I'm sorry, I'm not doing the triplets. There we go, triplets. Someone asked me to do a lesson on like fingerstyle with chords and melodies inside the chords and things like that. That probably will come at some point. I might do lessons on individual chords where you can find stuff going on all over the chord while you play fingerstyle. 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet. Okay, question from Reed. Question: would a finger picking set be worth it? I only use finger picks. You're talking about like these metal finger picks. I use them for banjo and dobro only, and dobro and resonator guitar. But anytime I'm playing slide, and not anytime I'm playing slide, but when I'm playing slide on a dobro, I use metal picks, and you could get a set of those. But you could always get a thumb pick. Thumb picks can be very useful. A lot of fingerstyle players use thumb picks. As somebody mentioned, I think Tommy Emmanuel does. But a lot of Nashville players do it. So, and if you have a hard time growing nails, you can definitely. But finger picks. I remember when I first got finger picks, I thought you put them on this way, like a claw, like rah, rah, And I like trying to play with this, and it was like impossible. And I'm like, why do people use these? And so I kind of put them down for like a long time. And you use them actually this way. And I don't even know if I could play classical guitar with finger picks on, but and they do have a sound. I have used it on steel string. Just feel weird. You can't feel the string because the metal's in between your finger and the string. You know what? You could change the symbol. The stop sign works great, Kathy. It's just that I'm not looking up there as often as you got, especially if I refer to myself in the third person or something, and then the stream just goes boom like that, and the question's long gone. But I would use something like that, maybe something for a question, so Kathy doesn't have to do it. So if you're asking a question, if you're asking me a question, let's put it that way, because sometimes you're asking each other questions. So if you're asking me a question, maybe put the stop sign up there so Kathy doesn't have to, and then I'll look for those. Okay. But don't just put a stop sign every time you want me to see something. Yes. Lap steel, although I don't. Let's see. Yeah, those would work too, David. David, those could work. I mean, any of those, but they get anything that gets used too much is probably going to just. I'm going to stop seeing it. Dennis, what are you asking me? Tom, can you tell the difference between open note notation and closed with a flag? No. The way they do it in classical guitar music notation is they would actually put numbers there. So if it's an open string, they would put a little 0 right here next to it. I'm not doing that because it just gets too crowded. But if you look at, or if they don't have anything there, I don't know if you can see this, but on the Carcassi thing here, you can see a number on the 3 for the third finger playing that C note, and a 2 right there for that. Let me get a pointer here or something. Here's this. Right there, there's a 2, and that's on the E note, but there's nothing here on the E string, which that kind of implies, for lack of any number, it implies that it's open. Okay. All right. So that's enough of that pattern. Now, so the pattern, the pattern we were just doing was this one. Okay. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, bum, 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 bum. See how the notes go higher? Bum, 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 bum. They're going up. Okay. The next one we're going to do, which was the second one we learned. Actually, yeah. The first one that was the first one we learned. I went back and did this one, but should have been the first one we learned. That was my bad. At first I wasn't going to teach it at all. And then I realized, you know what? This is a really good, the claw thing is really good to kind of get down. And it teaches you where your fingers are supposed to be. So this is really good. Okay. And again, these are on the, sorry. I'm going to put up a link for it's okay, Dennis, right? If I put up a Discord link so you guys can join the Discord, there's all sorts of files and pictures and stuff like that up there. It's being organized by people other than myself. So here is invite, because I can post a link, but nobody else can. All right. I almost gave myself a super chat. Okay. Let's see. You mean the hollow? Oh, I see what you're saying. No, that doesn't mean open. That just means a hollow note. And we haven't talked about, when we talked about rhythm or music notation, we did not talk about the rhythmic value of it. Music note, we've only talked about, let's see, we've done those two and we've done this one. So the hollow, that means that equals 4 beats. Okay. So this chord, you would play it, bling, 2, 3, 4, bling. So the hollow note only means that it's a longer value note. Okay. No, well, right now, Victoria, we are pretty much, well, I mean, you can learn to read music from this, but it's primarily, we're talking about guitars right now. I've been doing a lot of music theory stuff. So if you go back in the previous days, this is day 34. So day 1 through 12, we talked about the cage method, which is very guitar. But then we went on a 5-day thing where we talked about modes, and then we talked about the circle of fifths, and we talked about chord theory. So some of that stuff, I really tried to apply it to guitar. But then, but Victoria, that's it's primarily this. Right now, what we're dealing with is primarily guitar. So there are multiple. Where's my pad? Oh, here it is. There are multiple types of rhythmics, notation. So I just wrote down 4 different, the 5 most common. That's worth 4 beats. That's worth 2 beats. That's worth 1 beat. That's an eighth note. That's worth a half a beat. Okay, don't let that confuse you, because this is a whole note, half note, quarter note, eighth note, and there's a 16th note. See, with a double flag. And when you write that next to another 16th note, you connect them, and that's where we get these. These are technically 4. I could write them out with individual flags, but it would be a lot of work, a lot of unnecessary work, and it would be messy, and you would never do that. I always generally tend to group the 16th notes in groups of 4 so you can see the beats go by. Okay, we're going to get to this one in a second. Now we're going to do this one. So the one we just did went bum, 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 up. you can see by the notation that this one's going to go bump, bump, bump. It's going to go start low, go up high, and then come down. And low, high, come down, low, high, come down, low, high, come down. So you can see, I got to itch my nose. We're gonna sip. Yeah, you can look up beam notation exactly. And so I'm beaming these together too, so I don't have a bunch of, I don't want to have a bunch of eighth notes in there. I mean, sometimes they write it that way for choirs. Sometimes they will write every single eighth note out, but it makes it really tough to read fast. So let's see. Making sure. Okay, cool. All right, now let's see here. What was it? All right, so we've got this. So now I'm going to play that one. Okay, this is the one we're going to do next. All right. Yeah, a tie just connects those two values together. So if you were to tie two eighth notes together, that would equal a quarter note. And the reason you have ties, though, is because you want to go across beats. If we start, but right now, I can continue the discussion on music notation later. And maybe after we're done with this section, done today, I'll do some more for you. But that's kind of we're not needing to know this for this specific thing. It's fairly simple what we're writing, and I'm not even asking you to take a quiz at the end of the week on this. So I think one thing you could do, though, if you wanted to print up some staff paper and practice writing these out, I think it would help you. And also the other thing is what I did was, and Diane, remind me to tell the story about, where's Diane? I saw her. She's here. There she is. Okay. Diane, remind me to tell the story about the first time I impressed my dad with music. Okay. And that will have to do with writing music, and we'll talk about that. So here's that. The pattern we did before was one triplet where it was going up. Now we're going to reverse the top two fingers. And so we're going to go middle index. Okay, I'll just stay on the C chord. I'll go slower. One triplet, two triplet. And if you want to, you can just stay on the bottom string, on the fifth string, and just get that pattern down. Slowly at first. Look like a mad scientist. I really do. One triplet, two triplet, three triplet, four triplet. Oh, do I have to approve people? Okay, now I'm going to change chords. For those of you playing along, I went to G7. And notice I'm hitting fifth string, fourth string, third string, fifth string twice again. And then go. And the reason, the temptation is to change here, to change to only play three. That would be a different, that would be 3/4. We'd be playing three quarter notes per bar. But the reason Giuliani did this was to create musical motion. The B to the C, C, B. So that's all. And that's why I think it works really well. I was playing through a few more of these. I haven't, there's 120 of these Giuliani arpeggios that we're not going to work through all of them. And I'll put a link in the video later where you can actually go and purchase it. But I prefer you to buy one that doesn't have tab. Again, it's the same two chords in every bar. So you'll eventually be able to figure out the music part of it. It's not that complex. It looks crazy, but it's not. Once you start to see it. But there's some of these that were like, there was one. This one was kind of cool. This is actually part of the first group, but it's the last one of the first group. It was it's nice. Okay. So, okay, now let's move on. We did the 2. Okay, now we're going to get to some 16th note ones, and we're still only using the thumb and the index and middle finger. Here's the first one we did of the 16th note ones, and you can see again, these are 16th notes because they have two horizontal lines on them connecting them, and 4/16 equals 1 quarter note, just like 4/16 can be simplified to 1 quarter. 4 more 16ths here, 4 more 16ths here, 4 more 16ths. That's 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter. That means that's a whole bar. So this whole note right here, the value of this, oh, did I lose the battery already die? Bummer. Oh yeah, shoot. Oh, well, I knew that was going to happen. You don't normally leave this on that long. Oh well. I've got another battery, but I don't want it. It's packed away right now, so I won't worry about it. Hopefully you can see good enough. Well enough. Whatever. I'm married to an English teacher and I don't know how to speak English. Kathy's busy practicing. That's good. Let's see. Looking for question marks. Not seeing any question marks. That's good. So here's this one. So it's going to be thumb, index, middle, index. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E. And that's one way to count 16th notes, okay? And that sounds like this. I'm going to go full speed for a second, or not full speed, but... Okay, so I'm going thumb, index on the second string, middle on the first, index on the second. You can just do that. Don't move the bass line yet. What's up to max? I don't know. Another thing that's cool though, here's a cool little trick if you want to do this. If you move the first finger to the first finger to the first string as well as the second finger. So if both the first and the second finger are playing the E string, okay, you with me? Now you're creating what's called a tremolo. And that sounds like this. Oops. See that? Let me turn towards the mic a little bit. Okay, so that's a cool little trick that you would get. And if you were studying classical guitar, it would be something you would use a lot. Flamenco guitar uses it a lot too. In speaking of fives, David, you were talking about 7/4 or 7 quarter notes in the space of 4. That's not what 7/4 is, but when I was learning flamenco guitar, one of the common tremolos is the thumb. Let's see, was it? So it's thumb, index, ring, middle, index. So it's a total of 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that chord is just because I know some of you are going, man, what's that chord? There's 2 chords. Basically, one's just an E major. I'm playing 2, 4, 0, 4, and that's E major. E. Whoops, I wrote F. E. And then the other one, I just move it up 2 frets, and you get XX 3, 5, 0, 5. So you leave the open string open, and that would be basically an F with a sharp 4 or sharp 11. Same thing. David's a slacker. But it's really cool. I mean, I never thought I would ever be able to play 5 notes in the space of a beat. I never thought I could even feel it because it's so unnatural. Everything should feel like triplets or 4s or whatever, 2s, but 5 just like. But now I kind of can hear it. And the raschiato that is also 5. 1, 2. Let's see. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. So anyway, oh my word, sounds awesome when you buy. Okay, so getting back to our pattern, that's thumb first, second first, thumb first, second first. And those 2 fingers are on the top 2 strings. I'm sorry, my light burned out. I'm gonna have to charge up overnight every night. And then if you move it, we can stay on the C chord if you want. You could also go with all open strings if you don't even want to worry about your left hand. Don't need to, you can just do open strings if you want. Yeah, I don't know. Who was it? What's the max? Not max, but I mean, someone said, what's the max speed on that one? I don't know. That one doesn't feel like it could go fast. I mean, this one, I love that one. We're going to get to that one. So, and then G7. Okay, and then the next one, if you, again, you don't necessarily know how to read music to go, well, that kind of looks like it sounds. Okay. These are the only notes I'm using for the C chord, and these are the only notes I'm using. So in other words, in all of this mess of 16th notes, the only notes that are there are these 5 notes. So it's not like I've got 16 different notes here in these 16th notes. It's just these 5 notes. So it doesn't, and the fact is, when you're playing all of this mess, you're really just holding down this chord. So you're not doing anything over here, even though it looks like it's really busy. So don't let music notation scare you. Don't let it deceive you into thinking it's more complex than it is. And there's times when it is very complex. Okay, so now we're going to do the next one. Again, today's mostly a day review. And the next one is, and I will get to the ties on that. Kathy just summed up live. I do like getting better. I'm the same way, Kathy. I love seeing progress, whether it's in my tennis game. Somebody asked me if I played golf. Who was that? Was that Chris? I think Chris yesterday asked me if I played golf, and I didn't ever get around to answering. No, I played some 3-part courses. I've only played like a full, like a 9 or 18 hole course, like a full size course, maybe 5 times in my life. So, yeah, it's part of the reason I stopped playing was because it hurt my hands. And I remember playing volleyball in high school, and I like sprained a finger, and they made you play volleyball because it was part of gym class. And I actually got a note like saying I can't play. And I was fine with like running or whatever. I mean, they wanted me to, I think the teacher made me run laps or something, he said. And, oh, I got to close that. Whoop. Okay. Running is a lot less fun than playing volleyball. I would have loved to have played volleyball. Oh, I didn't sprain. I broke a fingernail. It was even more lame than that. The gym teacher was, of course, one of those, thick-necked, guys that like, come on, man up, Strahle, kind of thing. It was like, you don't understand. This is what I want to do for a living, not play volleyball. Okay, so we're going to reverse that pattern. So we can just start with a C chord, play the bottom note, and then now we're going to play the top string with our second finger, and then first finger on the second string and back to the second. So it's invert, kind of the reverse of that. And again, it's 16th notes, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E. Oh my gosh, Jim broke his foot playing miniature golf. And Kathy, that's one of the reasons why I really recommend using a metronome, because a metronome is a great way to chart your practice or chart your progress. I mean, so let's say you're working on scales and you're trying to get the C at a certain tempo, and you can get a free metronome for your phone. But you can even keep a chart. It's like going to the gym and you keep a chart, and you did 12 chin-ups and 12 pull-ups and 12 push-ups and 12, bench presses at this weight or whatever. And then the next, and you do that for a week, and then the next week you go up. It's clearly it's easier to chart your progress at the gym than it is on the guitar. As often as I accuse guitar players of treating guitar like a sport and trying to outdo everybody else, and I'm like, it's not a sport. I wish I could get more light on my hand. Sorry. So, okay, so this is the one. Okay. And so again, just to see it again. And this is the one I need to scan and upload. All right. And this one I need to scan and upload. And this is the new one. And this is the first time we see the ring finger. The A is the ring finger, angular or something like that in Espanol. And basically it's the thumb, index on the third string. Okay, so index, first finger's plucking the third string. And then your second finger is plucking the second string, and your ring finger is plucking the first string. Anyway, this is what Tom would do. All right, so this is going to be, and we're going to just have two bass notes to play. We're going to go from the fifth string to the fourth string. I'll go real slow. 1 E and 2 E, and Frankie caught it. 1 E or 4 E, and exactly. I'll read. Yeah, here's the second chord. Thank you, Hook, for catching. Or no, thank you, Bruce, for catching that. Four E, and now I was looking. Like I said, I was looking through some of these Giuliani arpeggios, and I saw one that was really cool, but it used two different, like the C chord, but a 5-string C chord, which was played like this. So really, technically, this would be C over G. Okay, check this out. Bonnie, that's hilarious. Everybody take a sip because I referred to myself in the third person. That's one of the rules. We have 7 rules to our drinking game. We got 40 people here, so probably everybody's regular, but just in case, here are the, okay, all copy. Here are the 7 rules at this point. The goal is to get to 10, I think. I have never broken a bone either, DK. I don't think so. I almost when we were getting ready to move to this house last year, I tried to pick up a desk, and I did, I was just seeing how I wonder how heavy my desk is, and so I put my fingers under it and I lifted it up, and on this it was this finger, it was like a horrible pop crack, and I thought for sure I broke it, so I got an X-ray, but it didn't. I must have torn it, but boy, it was tough. And that's when I started actually doing these stretches every day, because I couldn't bend this finger, like that was really, and I need to, I just played in pain. There was nothing I could do. You just do what you do. You've broken both your wrists. Oh, that's awful. At the same time, Dennis, that would be a pain, walking around like this. Oh, dang. Oh, stop telling stories about broken bones. I don't want to see that. Okay, so this pattern is kind of cool, but okay, so that G, where did I put? See, you're missing out on that G, C over G. Okay, so this thing, all right, so that's a 6-string C chord that they use in this one pattern I'm going to show you. We're not going to learn this pattern now, but I just want to show you because I thought it was interesting. And then this one is basically a 4-string G7 chord, and this is just G7, not G7 over anything, because the bottom note is. But this pattern that we're working on, the thumb, first, second, third, there's a pattern in Carcassi method that's basically does it on the bottom 4 strings, then the middle 4 strings, and the top 4 strings, and then back to the middle with the C chord. And then it goes to the G7. There's the bottom 4, the middle 4, and the top 4. Again, like that. So it sounds like this. It sounds like a piano thing. It really sounds like an orchestra thing. It's kind of cool. Let me turn it towards the mic so you can hear it. Again, we're not going to do this one, though. But, if you're having no problem with this, then you could. The hard part about that pattern is that you want to kind of go too fast and make them not so much individual notes, individual 16ths, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. You kind of want to turn them into rolls. Right? My wife broke her eye socket when she fell off a bike, and her shoulder and her arm. And consequently, she's not allowed to ride bikes anymore. Actually, that's not entirely true, but we've gone bike riding recently. Oh, so you broke your, Dennis, you broke your wrist at 2 different times. Okay, so that pattern again is this one, and I will try to scan those last 2 so they are up on the Discord, which is here. Oops, that's not the Discord. Sorry, I have to open the Discord again just so you guys I can send an invite. And is it a problem that I have to approve? I don't have to approve. Once you get the invite, you can join. Looks like we got a lot of people. Everybody's on right now too. So many of you are actually running the Discord at the same time as you're on here, which way too many things for me to think about. Dennis, were you didn't know the window was open, or were you trying to be funny, or did you run into it? Because that's actually happened to a friend of ours. I had a friend that was a DJ, and he had one of those mirror balls in the 70s, like it was big, and it fell from the ceiling and shattered right in front of a girl that was dancing, and she was just shards everywhere. She had stitches everywhere. It's horrible. He got sued. It was like in high school. He got sued, like he didn't attach it appropriately on the ceiling, I just touched my face, guys. All right, so East End. Somebody asked before about your process for writing a song. My process for writing a song is different with every song. Okay, let me just summarize here what we just did. So in this video, we recap the last 4 days. In the last 4 days, we've technically learned 5 finger picking patterns, I believe, right? See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 finger picking patterns. 6 is the number, not 5, unless thou proceedeth to 6. What am I attempting to quote? If I quote Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that's a sip right there. My writing process is different depending on what I'm writing for. Back in the day when I was writing for bands, a lot of times my writing would start with, boy, that's hard to remember now, to be honest, because I wrote the lyrics, the melodies, and the harmonic structure. I wrote 100% of the song on my bands. And a lot of times I think I would start with a riff or something that I felt like was pseudo hookish, maybe before I even knew what a hook was. Yeah, 5 finger picking patterns. Exactly. And I don't know I'm afraid what accidentally might come out of your mouth. And Diane, I will tell that story about my dad and me. So, oh, I'm so glad, David. We're all helping each other here. And like I've said before, I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm totally doing this for me. This is a completely selfish endeavor. And my YouTube revenues are up. So that's good too, because in a time where it's hard to find work, my wife's not working and my work's fine. I'm pretty good. I was pretty busy. I just connected with a new composer the last couple of days. So I'm hoping I'll start working for him. There was another one that I got recommended to, who's a very big composer. I would love to work for him as well. So I love doing session work and playing on games and stuff. But my method for writing is very different depending on what I'm writing for. If I'm writing for a young pop writer, kid, that pop artist, whatever, I'm not writing the melody and lyrics anymore. That's not something I even really attempt. Sometimes I'll be in sessions and I'll say, you need to make the melody do something different here, or you maybe try this with a melody, or that word, you've used that word twice, I wouldn't do that, or you're using a cliche. I would try to be the creator of cliche rather than a writer of cliche. I used to always say, I said, don't use cliches in your lyrics. When I was talking to young writers, I said, because Bob Dylan he would invent cliches. Like he would write something that other people would quote. And then he came out with a new song just like a couple of weeks ago, like a 20-minute song about the JFK assassination. And it's like strewn with cliches. And I'm like, boy, that's just not Dylan's, pushing it. So So and then some songs, when I was writing everything, some songs would start with lyrics. I'd have a really serious lyric idea or title. So that would be it. But when I'm writing for TV stuff, a lot of times I'm writing because they say we need more, like I did this thing here. We need more thinking cues, more tension cues or whatever. So this is technically a tension cue. And it's just very simple. It's just very redundant kind of something that's going to be under dialogue, so it can't have too much going on. And then what they usually do is they will cut it up into stems, so they have sometimes just bass and drums version, and then sometimes just the pads. So there's, believe it or not, there's a lot of stuff in there. I've got 10 tracks of stuff, some like effects and some keyboard pads, and then there's beats and drums and noises and clicks and weird stuff. So anyway, Luminous. Oh no, it was deleted. Sorry, Luminous. I don't know what your message was, but it was probably. Oh, I have not, Luminous, to answer your question, but it got deleted. We're trying to keep this clean just because if there's a certain amount of stuff said over here in the live chat, then YouTube will not allow me to have all open to all advertisers. So monetization becomes more difficult, and or they may demonetize it altogether, and I can't make money, which is what happens when there's a copyright claim or something like that. That's what Rick Beato complains a lot about. I just noticed he had I'm curious to watch it. He had a new video drop today, 5 tips for beginner guitarists. So I'm curious what his 5 tips are. And I don't know if there will be specifically musical or fingering or guitar tips, or if they're more like in my case, my 7 tips for older beginners is almost kind of a generic thing that would be applied to just about anything that you want to get good at. Like, for example, keep the guitar available. Don't, like keep your tennis racket out, or keep your bass out, or keep your flute out, or whatever. You keep your piano out. Don't pack your piano up and put it in the closet, because you'll forget that it's there. Yeah, I'm R-rated 5+. I do not say that is made for children, because my videos are not made for children, and there's a whole nother level of scrutiny on those. So, Tom, what is the BOM for this music that we're practicing? BOM, beats per minute? Oh, BPM. It's whatever you can do it at. So if your skill level is low, and you can set your metronome. Unfortunately, my metronome wasn't making noise the other day. I'm not sure why. Let me see. Okay, there we go. Oh, stop. Oh, that's really slow. It's set to 30. Why is it set to 30? Trying to get I'll just have to hold the tempo thing down. Oh, really? I have to push it every time no, it's still not moving up. This is really, I think it's just getting dirty or dusty or something. Okay, I'm pushing. So you could set it like I said, some metronomes can subdivide the 16th notes for you. So you could, 60 might be 60 beats per minute, which would be 1 beat per second, but it would be 240 beats per minute. See, yeah, 240 16th notes per minute. So if you got up to, like, I'll put this at 60. It's taking me forever to get there. Okay. Where's the volume? Oh, funny. Yeah, I think this is just getting too dirty. Oh, let's see. 1 E end, 2 E end. So the tempo, the beats per minute (BPM) would be whatever is you can play it at. So that would be pretty fast. Bump, 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 bump. So you can even set the metronome to count off your 16th notes. So if I were to play along with that, 60 beats per minute. Yeah, I know. It sounds like the old video games. Now, this one also, the nice thing about this is I can turn off the, so it's just quarter note. That sounds like Pong, right? Is that what somebody said? Yeah, the ring finger. Yeah, it's going to take a minute. Just slow it down. And then there's triplet. See, this one allows you to do triplet, which is kind of cool for this. So when that main ping is going, that's the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's when your thumb would change strings. And that's at 60. But I think this can go as low as 30 if you want. But 30 without subdivisions would be really hard to hear. You really do need subdivisions. So what I would do is, if you really can't play it any faster than 30, which is okay, what I would do is double that to 60, and that would be your quarter note. Or if you're doing triplets, you could double triple it to 90, set it to 90, and that would be your triplet at the tempo of 30 beats per minute. If you set the metronome to 90, then that would be 30 beats per minute, but triplet. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, and this one, does this one have a headphone out? Look at that. It does have a headphone out. So that would help a lot. I agree. I'm the same way. I play, if I'm playing on electric, maybe if I'm not plugged in. But I usually, if I'm going to do rhythmic practice, I prefer to play along with drum beats. And that I'll usually pull up on Logic, and then I can turn it at any tempo I want. I can turn it up or whatever. So let's see, what else have we got here? Gary, let's see, Reed. Oh, same, but now I use regular or more advanced chords since I have basically auto memorized. Okay, yeah, that's great. And I'm going to do a video on changing chords. I think I'm calling it intermediate, but it may be more advanced. Maybe I should do an intermediate one. Maybe I'll do two exercise videos for changing chords faster. I'm kind of in the process of creating ones that I think I want to create exercises that are not just good for finger memorization for finger, what's it called, muscle memory, but that also are musical. Like for example, one that I want to do is this is one I've done for. I love that progression. I usually play like this. I would usually go to the 5 chord like that, but that's a sub for the 5 chord. That's a tritone substitution. No quiz on that at the end of the week. Game show. I know it does sound like a game show. I write music for game shows. I dream of Tom. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Kathy, Verdi, definitely getting used to. A metronome app was good because you already have a headphone for your phone, so you could just put that. You could put one ear in if you want. Oh, really? Oh, you watched the Gary? That's funny. David, let's see. Oh, did I? Because I. Yeah, panic. Definitely a metronome will, and that's another exercise you can do if you're like more of an intermediate advanced player. One of the things you can do is try to play along with the metronome, but lag behind. And another trick, just try to kind of lay the beat back, but still so you're right behind the click instead of on the click. That's actually a really good exercise. And then the other thing is, the bebop players, they won't put the click on 1, 2, 3, 4. They'll put it on 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can swing a lot easier if you don't have 4 clicks. You only have 2 clicks. It makes it a lot easier to swing for some reason. Somebody explained it to me, and I don't remember. Okay. Oh, interesting. That's a great. Gary. Sorry, Gary said that Rick Beato explained that he's doing the 5 beginner tips because he's teaching his daughter guitar since they can't go to their lessons. That's so funny. He doesn't teach his kids lessons. But I understand that. My dad, I think part of the reason my parents got divorced because my dad tried to teach my mom tennis. Let's see. Rick M says, I have a wonderful device that lets me plug my earphones into it and my metronome at the same time and can be set to volume so I can focus on what I need to. That's great. Yeah, historical, the tick, 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 and your piano teacher and slapping your wrists with a piano teacher with the ruler hitting your hands when you get ahead or behind the beat. Verdi, I see you use the dominant seventh. Yes. Oh, I will, when I do the lesson, that's going to be part of that chord changing lesson. You're talking about that. Verdi, are you talking about this? That's, I'll put that in my lesson. There was another, like, I'm just trying to come up with trying to come up with things that are good. Remember this thing I've done too, though, where I go up. I'm going to try to come up with something that are musical and that are musical and that can be used in musical context, not just for some lame exercise. I don't like exercises that aren't musical. Generally, I really don't. I mean, our pinky exercise. Okay, so I think I answered Verdi's question. I will tab it out or something. I will put in some kind of notation when I'm playing it on the video. It will be in there. I'll try to make sure I do that. And in Reed, I use elixir strings on most of my guitars. And on my 12 string, I definitely use elixir strings because 12 string, that's a lot of strings to change. And the nice thing about coated strings, but particularly elixir strings, is I know that even though I haven't had my 12 string out in a couple of weeks, I know when I go to grab it out, it will be the strings will be it'll still feel new. So I think I use extra lights on though because I hate to break that G string. I would prefer to use light strings on my 12 string, but I think I have an extra light set on there. Okay. Yeah. Oh, a yardstick. Teachers. Billie Holiday swung. Oh, heck yes, she did. Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple things like Prince, when he would play drums, he would really lay back that snare hit, the snare drum. There was a drummer in town that pretty well-known, well-respected drummer, great drummer, but I had a hard time playing with him. And I couldn't groove with him. I never felt like it. If you don't ever lock with a drummer, you won't feel like you had a good gig. It's frustrating. So I'm like, I couldn't quite find the pocket of his playing. And I was like I only played with him a couple times. It wasn't like a regular gig. And then I was talking to a friend of mine to play with him all the time. And I go, yeah, I had a hard time playing with that guy. And he goes, oh yeah, it took me forever. I said, really? Why? And he goes, well, his kick rushes, his snare lays back, and his hi-hat's right on the beat. I'm like, how does he even do that? He goes, I have no idea, but that's how he plays. And he kind of got known for that sound. So he's actually like I said, he was a working drummer. The guy was a full-time working drummer, but his kick was ahead of the beat. And I played with him later and I just listened to the hi-hat. In fact, I talked to the sound man. I said, can you give me hi-hat? And now generally the drummers, I say this, the right hand of the drummer should lock with your right hand of the guitar. And the right foot of the bass kick drum the drummer's right foot, which is the kick drum, should lock with the bass player's right hand. Okay, so the drummer's right hand should lock with your right hand, and the drummer's right foot should lock with the bass player's right hand. And so that was one of the things that I started to do differently when I started playing with drummers. I really tried to listen to their hi-hat. And sometimes you have to ask the sound man to turn the hi-hat up in your ears. Oh, I touched my face. Cheers. If I touch my face, we have to take a drink. Oh, my neck's starting to look old, isn't it? I'm getting that old. I'm getting that old neck look. I need to grow my beard further down to hide it. I'm getting old. What can you do? Yeah, Martin strings are great. I've used Martin strings too. But the Elixir NanoWebs, like Verdi says, they feel really good. They're really smooth. They're quieter. I actually will use Polyweb on some of my acoustics because it's got more coating. It will tend to flake off and kind of look like feathery hair on your strings eventually, but it is quieter, so you don't have to get that squeak, squeak, squeak. I wish they still made the nylon, and these aren't squeaking too bad right now, but a lot of times when you're performing or you're playing, engineers will complain, can you not squeak so much? I'm like, well, nothing you can do, really. I mean, there are a couple tricks to it. One is lift your fingers off the strings, but then you run the risk of strings ringing out. The other thing is to move as quick as possible, and that will actually mitigate some of the sound. The pitch will go actually higher than maybe you can hear it, but not that much higher. It's not like dogs can only hear it. Let's see. Okay, so Verdi, that's one. Yeah, so that's one that will be on the Verdi. I'll be doing that jazz progression. That for sure will be on the video. I'm trying to determine now if this the one I'm working on. I'm kind of writing it now. If it's going to be, I'm going to call it advanced or intermediate. I was only going to say intermediate, but now I'm thinking some of these voicings might be a little advanced. But also, I hate to put the word advanced guitar player on any. That was the book, The Advancing Guitarist by Mick Goodrich. That's actually a really good book, but there's not a lot of exercise in it. It's more mental exercises. Ways to think about soloing. Sorry, some squirrel. So anyway, that was the. That was the progression. One of the progressions I'm going to put in the video, but we'll see. I may just put them out and just say intermediate, and then let people complain and say that's not intermediate. So I'm like, yeah. The advanced guitar thing is tough to quantify what that means. Intermediate is a little easier to quantify. Okay, Dennis, if anyone had an amp with line and you can use a YouTube or your music channels to play along with your guitar, I don't know. I don't know that, Dennis. I'm not sure. Yeah, David Silers. I actually found one of those metronomes. It was pretty cool because I was like, oh no, I found the black one that has the dial on it. That one's really cool. I found that for $5 at a thrift store and I bought it. I don't know where it is now. It may be packed away, but it's a really cool looking metronome. The ones that go tick tock like that too are cool also. I don't know how accurate they are. It's interesting mechanism, how they work. Yeah, elixirs are probably, well, 3 times. Yeah, probably 3 times the price. However, if they last 4 times longer, then they're probably worth it. DK, you taking off? Namaste. DK's taking off. Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, thanks, Kathy. Sorry, DK. Yeah, elixirs can be a little pricey, especially when you're not in the United States. One thing you could do, though, if you are like an Instagram or a YouTuber and you've got a lot of followers and you're playing guitar, singer, whether you're a singer-songwriter or whether you're kind of a guitar showboater kind of person, Elixir's pretty good about doing endorsements and things like that. So you can buy strings directly from them in those contexts. And then usually you get them for less than half of retail. Because keep in mind, a store is going to have to raise, have to double the cost or whatever. You can pretty much expect everything retail to be 50% or 100% of what they pay for it. Yeah, I'm going to need a ZZ Top beard exactly to hide my aging neck. Let's see. Nanowebs are good, but yeah, nanowebs are better for electric for sure. Polywebs on electric I wouldn't use, but polywebs on acoustic, I've got a couple acoustics I have polywebs from way back that I've used just because they're quieter, but they do sound a little older. Basically, what would happen when I used Ernie Balls. That was my string of choice. And if I played one gig with a set of Ernie Balls on my guitar, they would be rusty by the end of the day. And they would be totally dead. And elixirs, they kind of go on and they sound a little bit like 1 hour old. Like, like nothing's, for me was brighter than brand new set of Ernie Balls. Like really bright and beautiful sounding. But again, within an hour, they would be dead. And so, or by the end of the 3-hour set, they would be dead. But about an hour in, they'd be nice and kind of worked in good and all that because my hand would sweat so much. But elixirs kind of going on and sound like that pretty much their entire duration. They sound like, an hour old pair of strings right away. And they also tune up faster. I'm trying not to, they tune up faster. So, strings stretch and everything. Elixirs tend to tune up faster. So, fast fret. I used to use fast fret when I was a kid. Earthwound. I haven't thought of earthwound strings further. What was the ones that came in the long pack that was like the box that was as long as the strings were? What were those? That wasn't earthwound, was it? Do you remember those? That was I remember those. I remember the display because they actually had to come with a rack and you could display them on, so they would just hang. Those were hilarious. I wonder if they still sell those. Let's see. Yeah, Ernie Ball Slinkies are great. I like those a lot. Like I said, but for me, if I'm gigging with them, they don't last very long. Yeah, Peter, exactly. Yes, Reed says I use Elixir on my acoustic and electrics, except a couple that I'm constantly changing tunings on, and I'm more prone to break a string when they're not. Yeah, and actually that's true. When Elixirs first came out, I was I started using them right away because of my problem. And when I went to the NAMM show, I went to the Elixir booth and I started talking to a guy. I wish I could remember his name. We became friends, that day. And he actually, the day after the NAMM show, he came up to my house and took a guitar lesson. And then from then on, I was an Elixir artist. I gave him a free guitar lesson and became an Elixir artist immediately because he was in charge of that department. And I've been an Elixir artist ever since. It was probably 20 years ago. And so I was getting all these Elixir strings and I was breaking them. Like I was breaking the G string all the time on the acoustic sets. And so they would have me send them the broken G string and I would wrap, I would take, if I had once I got to 5 of them, I would wrap them up, or D string or any string that broke, I'd wrap them up and send it to them and they would study and why did it break? And, and I was just hitting too hard, but hey, I'm going to hit how I'm going to hit. When I'm singing and playing, I'm just doing my thing. I'm not aware. And sometimes you can't hear yourself. Like in a live situation, you start banging harder, especially when the drum's playing or whatever, and you're playing acoustic. And these were all acoustic strings that I broke. I rarely break electric strings on Elixirs, except like the high E string or something like that. But I was breaking the G string, D string. One weekend, I broke the G string, the D string, and the A string in 3 different services. We did 5 services every weekend, so it was like I'm having to reharmonize on the fly while I'm leading worship. That was pretty crazy. Anyway, I wanted to ask, how does one apply anti-wrinkle moisturizer as Tom does? Obviously does without touching your face. Well, I'm not on air 24/7, so as soon as I log off, I'm touching my face a lot. Tom is constantly touching his face, is what I'm trying to say. Touching His Face was a band name I had in high school. You guys are just thirsty, I know. Sip, sip, sip. And yeah, I don't look 50. I'll be 59 in July. I kind of don't look 59. So I think I see it in my eyes more. Now I'm starting to see it in my neck. Look, here's my iguana imitation. Screenshot. I'm going to get screenshots sent to me now. All right. Yeah, now I just ordered. See, flat Elixir doesn't make flat wound or round wound. I just ordered some flat wounds. I haven't put them on yet on my. I was going to put them on that the Gibson 175 that I have. I really want to put some heavy flat wounds on that thing and really make it a jazz box. So Elixir doesn't make those kinds. So I had to buy those from somewhere else. I think I've been Tomastic is what I did. Oh wait, what did you say, Gary? Oh, lines in are RCA on your amp. Oh, interesting. And say CD. Interesting, Gary. RCA. Those are old school, right? It's like you could connect your turntable to your. That was what it probably was for. Well, it says CD. That's right. CD players originally had RCA outs that would hook to your power amp. So yeah. So that's so you could play along through your amp. I guess that's a good thing. Although I can't imagine your guitar amp speakers are going to sound very good with music, full range music. Roger's taking off. Bye, Roger. Get back to work. Yep. Kathy, thank you. Let's see. Did anybody come up with those string names that fast fret? Did somebody say what that string was? What was that string in the box? Advancing Guitars by was it It wasn't. No, it was Mick Goodrick was the book. The Advancing Guitarist though may have been the book that I was thinking. It may be that one. I'll have to look at that. I can't find it right now. I don't know where I put it, but it was like, man, I learned so much from that book. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. I'm like, I'll never use this, but there was a lot of stuff in there that was great. Let me see if I can find both of those books because I told you about them a couple weeks ago, and I have yet to pull them out. But maybe the Advancing Guitarist by Mitch Goodrick or something, I can't remember. Mick Goodrick, sorry. Oh, nice, Reed. Okay, that's exactly right. See, Reed, so you must have a lot of how many followers do you have on Instagram? I don't really pursue that. It's not really my thing. I'm not a gunslinger when it comes to the guitar. Let's see. Oh, that's funny, DK. Yeah, it's probably not worth it where you are. I'd send you a couple sets, DK, but it probably cost me more to mail them to India than it would cost you to buy them. But yeah, there's ways to get around that. But you just I don't know. And there are other coated string companies, and I'm sure there are some made in India too. So you might be able to find someone that does that because they've had a lot of people try to copy what they do. What is considered light strings for? Okay, I see that, Chris. Generally, light is a 12 on top, which would be pretty heavy on electric. Extra light is a 10 on top. I don't see anybody really market acoustic guitar strings with an 11 on top. So 10 is pretty typical for extra light. I don't like extra light. Tend to go light. I do want to buy kind of a cheap acoustic guitar and put 10s on it, put like a 10 set on there. And that's pretty small but it would be to get a really kind of thin poppy sound. That's hard to get out of a really good acoustic. Yeah, 9 is extra light on electric. 10 is light generally by marketing, and then 12s or 11s I think are considered medium, something like that. Yeah, you asked me about flat wounds. I have used flat wounds before though, on bass too. I have flat wounds on my son has it right now. I have a 60s Beatle bass, a Hofner Beatle bass, and it has flat wounds on it because that just sounds great on a Hofner. It's perfect. Okay, Earthwood. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm way behind on all these things. Oh, Pepper, yeah, bar chords. Working on bar chords. Yikes. Let's see. Oh, sip. Everybody's sipping. Okay, I'm moving. I thought, Kathy, I thought I'd keep up with it this time. I invested in better guitar after a while. I didn't want to pressure. And that, Kathy, that is one of the tricks. If you spend more money on a guitar, you're probably more likely to want to kind of get the most out of it. Kind of guilt yourself, be a Jewish mother to yourself. I could totally see that. Yeah. And somebody asked me, what should, if I had to say $1,000 to spend on a guitar and amp, should I spend 500 on one, 500 on the other? And one of the things I talk about, because me, I like cheap guitars. I almost feel like if you play, say you had unlimited budget for an electric guitar. Let's say you bought a 59 Les Paul for $500,000, okay? And then you plugged it through a 3 watts solid state Fender practice amp, or one of those cigarette case, and it looks like a cigarette, it's going to sound like not good. About 10 words that I had to filter out in my head. Okay. What if you took $100 of that $1,000, went and bought a $99 Squire and went and bought a tube Fender amp for $900? There was a time where you could probably pick up a Fender Deluxe for $900 tube amp. it's going to sound pretty good. It's going to sound a lot better than a $500,000 Les Paul through a cigarette amp. So I feel like the tone still comes. A lot of the tone comes from the guitar. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I'll spend a lot of money on this flashy guitar, and then they have a garbage amp on stage, and ultimately it's not serving their purpose. So, all right, let's see, Dennis. I don't know. That wasn't even a question. Flat wounds are not scary. I don't know why, but they're not scary. Let's see. They're a little weird looking when you around the headstock, but other than that, yeah, bar chords. And you, Pepper, you've seen my videos on that darn F chord and the son of a B chord. Those are both directed towards people trying to get those two bar chords down. They're very common. I am still alive. I still am alive. Let's see. I'm scanning for question marks. I'm not seeing any. So custom light. There you go, Bob. Yes, Martin Acoustic SP 0.11. That's a custom light. Exactly. So extra light would be 10s and lights would be 12s. And then to be in the middle there, they're going to be some kind of custom set. And I have a lot of amps. I have a Marshall. I have a 60s Marshall. I have a 2 Rock here. I have a couple Fenders. I have one of my favorite amps is a Sears Silvertone Twin 12 from the 60s. It's a great amp. One of the craziest amps I have is a Matchless Clubman. That thing is a monster amp. Really gainy, really high endy, very, very, very bright amp. So, yeah, Fender tube amps, you can't go wrong. Solid, the deluxe, the deluxe reissue. I think they're not cheap. They're probably $2,000 for the blackface reissue. I think that's what my son Alex plays a lot of times. Although he's got a friend that makes amps for him, so he has custom. Squire Telly, yeah. What I do with the cheap, hey Jim, I do like Musician's Friend. I would wait maybe until Guitar Center's open. You can find some of those for $50. You can find cheap Squires for $50, $60. And just plug them in and make, one of the tricks you can do is when you're buying a cheap guitar, you can always look down the neck and see if it's too warped. If there's too much warp to if the neck is too bent, that's too much back bow bow, and then back bow would be if it's warped the other way. If it's warped the other way, it'll fret out. You can go up every string, every fret, all the way to the top and see if there's a buzz. If there's a bad buzz, I wouldn't, especially if it plays the same note twice in a row, you really got a problem. So I wouldn't even buy that guitar. But I'd rather, I've ordered guitars online, but cheap guitars, I can find them. I found them as cheap as $50 at Guitar Center for different things. So, or guitar stores. Hot Rod Deluxe isn't a bad little amp. I feel like it's hard to get a good, loud, clean sound out of a Hot Rod Deluxe. I feel like it gains up a little too much. But it's a very, very common amp. Before that was the other one. What was the one that everybody was using? The kids were using, it was cheap. I think Alex even had one, but I can't remember what it was. It was smaller than a Hot Rod Deluxe. Let's see. Oh yeah, with arthritis, definitely lighter strings is definitely a way to go. Sip for changing guitars. Boom. Good catch, David. And Hook and Kathy. Everybody caught that. Diane. Oh, Diane, I got to tell my story, right? Blues Junior. Oh, Blues Junior. That's the one. That's right. BL. Yeah, that's what all the kids had Blues Juniors. They were pretty cheap and tube. But again, really, really hard to get a loud, clean sound out of a Blues Junior. But a Deluxe, you can get a good, loud, clean sound out of it. Oh my gosh. A Fender Twin. I can't believe I did this. I used to order Fender Twins for backline. It's like the worst amp. So I'd have a Fender Twin behind me, and I couldn't turn it up past 1 because it's just so loud. So if I order a backline, I would just ask for a Deluxe. That's more than I'll ever need, especially now with everybody going with the ears and stuff like that. A backline is if you're flying to a gig and you're not bringing equipment, like you're bringing a guitar and a pedal board and that's it. You tell them what you want. And so they'll, and usually I ask for Deluxe. Like when I go to the Muhammad Ali Awards and play for that, I always just ask for a Deluxe. They usually bring me 2, and I could go stereo because I bring a stereo pedal board so I can have stereo reverbs and delays and things like that. But And usually what I'll do is I'll ask them for cables and all that stuff, so I don't have to bring the long cables because that just adds weight in the suitcase. So custom PRS, PRS American Custom 24 Gold for 2,000 on Guitar Center. So always check. Yeah, you can always check used on the Guitar Center website. That's true. That's true. Reed, I'm going to have to look you up on Instagram. I'm going to be. I'm going to be. I'm like, oh dang, why is Reed watching me? He's amazing. So, if you, what is your handle? I'll look you up right now. This makes for good TV. Me looking at my phone. Oh, and Diane, I got to tell my story, don't I? Okay. Oh, look at that! Right when I said that, Diane. Okay, so let me pull up Reed real quick and see. Okay, Reed, RED, and then Norquist. Yeah, because if you've got a lot, like even if you're not a shredder, you can probably. All right, I'm not seeing anything yet. Return. Oh wait, I spelled it wrong. That's why. Why did I spell it with a G? It's not. It's Norquist. Weird. Fishing and hunting. That can't be you. Reed, are you posting it? It's not under your name. Okay. Okay, you have to go. You're like getting exposed now. All right. All right. So anyway, Reed. Okay. So Diane, the story time. Okay. Dennis is asking me, not sure if it's very guitar related, but why do bands up the volume on instruments so much and not enough on the singing? That's really up to the sound man. And a lot of times I think they do that because the audience already knows the words and they can hear it. I'm like always constantly going like, what is he singing? What are the words he's singing? Because if I don't know the song, I don't understand the lyrics. But when I'm surrounded by people who are singing along with the song and I'm like, I can't hear a word he's singing, but they all know the words. So in some ways, I think it's the sound man's taking advantage of the fact that generally most audiences know the artist songs. That's why they went to see the artist. My hair, oh my gosh. I walked outside. I walked 4.5 miles with this hair like this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So my story is kind of was the beginning of my guitar journey. At 9, I started playing guitar. But I really didn't like. I was kind of doing the Alfred's basic guitar method, and it was okay. I don't think I had really engaging teachers, and we moved around a lot. So when I was a kid, I went to 5 different elementary schools. Finally got to Indianapolis, and finally had the same teacher. And I started writing music, and I started learning songs instead of learning doing the Alfred's basic guitar method. And the cool thing about Alfred's basic guitar method, though, it did teach me to read music, and it stayed with me all the way into high school, even though I didn't have teachers that emphasized music reading. So don't forget to hit the like button if you get a chance. Okay, redo that. And so what I did was I wrote a song, and not only did I write this, I was 13 years old. I wrote a song, and it was something like something like that. I wonder if I still have that music somewhere. That would be really cool if I did. So I wrote it out, and of course, my parents, right when I turned 13, right after my 13th birthday, they got divorced. Of course, I say, of course, because I turned 13, that's why they got divorced. And so I was going over to my dad, my mom, we got to stay in the house. My dad got an apartment, and okay. All right. Cheers. I didn't catch myself touching my face, but I don't doubt that I did. Yep. And so I wrote that song down. In fact, I'd never seen tablature before. In fact, now that I think about it, my music teachers, all the guitar teachers I had when I was in the early 70s, when I was a preteen, they wrote everything out of music. So I continued to read music throughout. That was the only way you could teach. Really, tab wasn't a thing. So I wrote this out in music, and I played it. I said, "Hey, Dad, look at this song I wrote." And I think I was just over there by myself. I may have, I don't know, Mom dropped me off or something. And so I'm playing this song, and then he goes, "Well, what is that you wrote down?" And I go, "Well, that's the music." And I handed it to him. My dad was a drummer, but he was very, very impressed that a 13-year-old kid wrote out music. To him, that was, to a drummer, it was hieroglyphics. And I wrote out every note I played, and I played it exactly as written. And I said, "Yeah, this is these." And he goes, "Where did you learn to do that?" And I said, "Well, I mean, it's part of my lessons, and I'm doing it." He goes, "That's really cool." And it was at that moment he was like, every son is trying to get their father's approval. I don't care if you realize it or not. It's sad if you have a relationship with your father or not, but every son, my dad had a horrible relationship with his father, and I had a great relationship with my dad. But my grandfather they just didn't have a good relationship, and for whatever reason. And so I always had a pretty good relationship with my dad. Never really had any troubles. And I think one of the reasons was because he really liked that I became a musician, because he didn't do what he wanted to do with his life. He had a lot of regrets. He would say he had a lot of regrets, but none of them were having us kids, of course. But all three of us, myself and my two sisters, we all ended up in the arts or in the creative endeavors. My older sister's an art professor, teaches at Rhode Island School of Design, and she's a painter. My little sister is a fashion designer, and now she's a product manager for, she's worked for some big corporations, and she's done some amazing things and traveled the world. And so we all kind of ended up doing the arts things that my dad wished he'd done. And I don't know how that happened, but he certainly encouraged it in all of us. And but when I was 13 and I played that music for him, and when he said, "That's really cool that you can do that," I kind of went, "Yeah, that is really cool that I can do it." And from that point on, my focus was guitar and music. From that point on, and it was about 2 years later that I discovered this whole LA studio business, and I went, "Wow, they make a lot of money for playing on TV shows. That would be really cool to do." And that's, when my focus really at 13, that very day, I should look for that music and see if I can find it, because I got a lot of old music books. David, am I giving you all sorts of stuff to work on there? I know, right? Let's see. What have we got? Let's see. Tom descending bass line. Yes, it's basically, that's all that is. As a former sound man, at least in the old days, small band setups, you couldn't afford monitors, and the band was always asked for the instrument to be turned up more and more. Yeah, Rick, as far as why the band, also a lot of times the sound is coming off the stage, and the sound man has, as you know, as sound man, you had no control. If the guitar player is playing through Marshalls, now like at church, our amps are off stage and they're mic'd and they're coming in our ears. There's the only thing on stage that's making any noise besides the singers is the drums, which is always a problem. And we've battled putting the drums behind shield. We did it back in the day, and drummers hate that, being behind shield. So let's see. David, I'm just as old. What song? Blind Faith stole your song. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I know Blind Faith. Yeah. I probably stole it from somebody. When I was 13, I was kind of into Seals and Crofts. I was into John Denver. So I was learning. And there was a Seals and Crofts song that was kind of like that I learned. Not a famous song of theirs, not "Oh Hummingbird," which is actually a great song. People don't ever play Seals and Crofts songs anymore on the radio. It's really weird. I mean, like, what happened to Seals and Crofts? Summer Breeze, that record was a great record, and it was all LA session musicians. So I didn't know when I was listening to Seals and Crofts records, I was really getting an early dose of LA musicians, but so many of those records were really good playing. But yeah, Diane, that's kind of the ultimate story for this channel. And again, if you see my introduction to this channel, the reason I started doing YouTube lessons was because my dad had passed away back in 2011. literally 3 days after I turned 50. And I had stopped teaching for the most part. And I'd been teaching for so long, for so many lessons, so many students, that I felt like I should probably, when my dad died, everything he knew about jazz, which was a lot, and baseball, he could quote, he knew all the stats. That instantly went away. So there's a saying, and I forget, it's somebody said it was an Indian saying, but I think it's a universal saying, that when a person dies, a library burns to the ground. And that's, so what I'm trying to do is not allow my library to burn to the ground. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get everything out of here and putting it up on YouTube. And so that if you can reanimate me in a couple hundred years, then maybe I get all that information back. I don't have to relearn it all. But that's kind of what I'm doing. So anyway, let's see. Yeah, put the drummer off stage. Exactly, Rick. Yeah, that would be, that's kind of what you're doing when you box him. And we built a box and the drummer hated it. Oh my gosh, he hated it. It's the worst. And so I don't blame him. And I don't like, I like interacting. I don't like really using ears, but it does save my ears if I can, because I can turn them down pretty low. I have a friend, Chris Trainer, who plays with the band Bush, and he has horrible tinnitus. And I say, what do you do with, what, Peter, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. Well, God bless you, Peter. Thank you for that. That's a record. You just broke a record, like by a long shot. But Chris Trainer, I said, I had a problem with using ears because I turned them too loud when I first started using ears, and I fried my ears. Because when you have your amp right there and the drummer's right there and the bass is, and you're playing together and you really feel it, right? And there's a lot of energy that's generated that inspires you and moves you from the sheer volume of it all. So what I found myself doing, like so many people do, so many musicians do when they first start using ears. I'll touch my ears so you can take a drink. Cheers. But when I touch, when I would start using ears, I turned it up way too loud, and my ears would ring for the next day after that. I was really blowing out my ears because I was trying to get all that energy from the sheer volume on stage through my ears, and that's just like not good. So I asked Chris Trainer, I said, what do you do? How do you, because he's a freaking rock star. He's playing in front of, tens of thousands of people every show. And he says, he goes, he told me this. I hope it's okay that I tell him, but it makes complete sense. He goes, I turn it just slightly above my tinnitus. And I go, really? He goes, yeah, it's just, I turn it just, because I don't want to make my tinnitus worse by cranking it. And I go, well, how do you get inspired to do what you do? And he goes, I'm acting. I said, oh no, and this is what I'm afraid. I'm like, oh no. Tom Strahle says Chris Trainer is really acting, but everybody up there is acting. You're always acting. That's part of the job. But it's like you act like it's, like yeah, this is like, And I do that too. Sometimes you just don't have it. When I was leading worship, especially 5 services and 2 rehearsals. Running through the set 7 times, I'm like, I'm not like, oh Lord, I'm like, oh Lord. So, I'm still talking to God, but we're talking about 2 different things than what the congregation thinks I'm talking to you. So anyway, let's see. Okay. So it's moderated. Let's see. Oh, no worries. Reed, no worries. I totally understand that. Don't worry about that. I won't bug you. I think it's cool though that you're getting an endorsement deal from Elixir. You're just basically making my point. It's not necessarily impossible to get endorsement deals from different string people if you are what they call an influencer. Hey, air quotes. I'm getting to that point where I'm almost an influencer. What do I have? 72,000 subscribers? Is that insane? So I really appreciate you too, Peter. So thank you. I hope you know that. Like I said, I'm doing this for me, not for you guys. So sip, sip, sip. We got lots of sips here. Rick. Oh, the drummer. Yeah, drummers. The drummers were the first ones to start wearing earplugs. which cracks me up. And then they just hit harder, and then like we pay the price. I had serious hearing loss. My left ear was primarily, I think, from driving. I had a Honda Civic without air conditioning, and I was a messenger, for this jewelry company in LA, and I would drive on the freeways with my window down and next to trucks and things like that. So I think I lost a lot of my hearing in my left ear. When I'm using ears, it's pretty even. But like the weird thing, like freaked me out when I was in Indiana and laying my head on the pillow, and I'm like, oh, no crickets. And then I turn my head over to the other side. I can hear crickets, and like, oh my gosh, I can't hear anything over this threshold. But if it's turned up loud enough, like if there's a cricket right here, I would hear it. And if I put my ears in, like I've got molds here that the church bought for us, that I use in my studio. And these are molded that fit my ear. They're kind of dirty. I got to clean them. But these actually fit your ears. They're kind of weird. The first 100 times you put them in, you're like, oh, you almost gag because they're like go way in there. It's like, this can't be right. Oh, you know what? I got to get the cleaner out and clean it up. It's like, it comes with a tool to clean them out. Oh yeah, I definitely need to clean these out. I can also send them in for like $99. They totally service them. It's just great. Oh man, touching my face. Our drinking game. All right. So, yeah, so these are ear molds, and they're really, I think these are, what are the drivers I have on these? These are Ultimate ears. And I think I have, believe it or not, there's like 5 speakers in each ear or something like that. I forget which ones I have, but you can get like some of them have 16 drivers or something crazy like that. Yes, hearing aids can get very expensive. Where did I see that? Where did that go? Oh, Carter, hey, you're new. I've had tinnitus since I was a kid and have been using musicians' plugs and earplugs. Okay, hey, should I do the tinnitus cure again? Should we do that again? Okay, check Carter, if you're still there. I know a Carter. I know he's a music supervisor. Yeah, I know tinnitus is awful, and so I don't know if you want to do this or not. Let's see. Sip, 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 sip. Okay, wait. Okay, Carter, you're still here. Kathy says yes. Thump, thump, thump. Okay. Oh, Charles, I guess you did it before, right? So you remember what we're gonna do. No, Carter, I don't want to say it's a cure. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a warning right now. It's gonna go away for about 5 minutes, but it's gonna come back. And so the reason I say it's a warning, because it make you happy for 5 minutes, but it make you sad when you hear it come back. And I'm really good at tuning it out. My cousin, she has to have a fan. She was here. She's a flight attendant for like private jets, and she was here in LA and spent a couple nights here. And she has to run a fan all the time. I don't think it's related to being a flight attendant, but she has tinnitus so bad, but she fixates on it. See, I managed at night when I'm laying in bed not to fix that. So here we're going to do the cure. Oh, you have polyphonic tinnitus. Yeah, I have polyphonic tinnitus too. It's multiple tones. It's way up there, and it's kind of C, but not quite. So sometimes I'll be playing something, especially with the EBow or something, and I will hear a flutter, and I'll think I'm out of tune. And that's sometimes why I use a tuner. But it's because it's going out of tune with my tinnitus. Oh, it's so frustrating. And I have a feeling that my days as a musician being numbered by how bad my tinnitus is. So I try to be real careful with my ears now. Okay, because I'm trying not to let it get worse. From Carter. Oh, sorry. There was what brand are these? Oh, okay. Yeah, the Ultimate ears. Yeah, Ultimate ears. And these were about $1,000, I think. Like I said, the church bought them for us. The whole band got them. But they're about $1,000. I think they're worth it. I mean, you can get some Shure ones for $99 or a couple $100. Okay, so here's the cure for the short-term cure for tinnitus. It works on me. It may not work on everybody. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something weird. You're going to be like, wait, what? But okay, here's how see if I can do this. I'm going to sit back. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to put your hand on your lap, or you can do it on a tabletop. Put your hands on the lap like this. Okay. And then you put your first finger on top of your second finger on both hands, and you snap down. You let it snap off, like you're trying to do that, but you're gonna, clearly I'm wearing pants. Tom is loaded. Exactly. Okay. Stop it, Bertie. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you got your fingers on here, right? All right. Now you guys are going to freak out when you do this. If you haven't done this before, you're going to freak out. Okay. So you're going to snap your fingers down like that. Okay. It's, you know, so you get kind of a thud on your lap. And if you do on a tape, if I do on a tabletop, you can actually hear it. Hear that? All right. Now that you got that, run confirmed, David. That's not a sip. Verdi, confirming pants is not a sip. Okay. Now here's what you do. Let me take a sip first. You are going to take your hands and you're going to cover your ears like this, and you're going to do that on the back of your head. You're going to do that snapping thing on the back of your head with both hands 50 times. Oh, you got a new okay. Oh, Kathy, thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Reed. Okay, here we go. Ready? 50 times, 50. Okay. So you're closing your ears like this, and you do snap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. And this is the weirdest thing. Did everybody, who did it? Now, who was it that asked for it? It was Carter. Verdi, I don't doubt you would do something like that. That could go viral. You could make a fortune off that. Oh, Jim, it didn't do a thing for you. Okay, but it worked. Your fingers are cramping. No, sorry. Okay, good. Well, and again, it may have something to do with where you're hitting on the back of your head. It may have something to do with how hard you close your ears. It's coming back already. I can hear it coming back, but it's just weird how it gets quiet. And I don't know, it's your brain reacting to it. Now, Peter wants his $50 back because now he noticed he had tinnitus. Yeah. Well, and that's the drag about doing it, is because at first you like, I warn you, because it's going to go away and it's going to make you depressed because now you notice it again. So tinnitus is a drag, and I'm hoping that they come up with a cure for it. It is a, let's see, Carter. I did it. I swear it worked a bit. Okay, Carter, let's see, Peter. Yeah, Hook. It got better, but still there. I hear it again now. If you've ever had a major concussion, yeah, be careful. All I hear is an echo. Oh my gosh. And that's kind of what Frankie, what you said. Maybe you've heard drumming like that. Maybe that would do it too. I don't know. I saw a YouTube video and someone sent it to me, and I shared it with my friend Chris from Bush, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy! It totally worked." But again, it's just gone. It comes back. So, but some people, if you can fall, like some people, it keeps them up at night. But some people are like, I fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. So if you do it right before you go to bed, Rick, it worked for Rick. Yeah, isn't that funny? Oh, I forgot I have this open. You guys are on. Okay, this is funny. You guys are on the. Oh, let me do the invite for the one more time here before I log off, because I'm done. Here we go. Here's the Discord invite. So you guys, there's more coming after, and I will post how to change my mind, blow my ear. Yeah, I'm not going to blow in your ear, Gary. Yeah, and Carter, I trust me, it's a drag. It's a real drag, and I know that someday they'll find a cure for it. It's really in your brain. It's not something that's physiological, I believe. I think they've really determined that it's not. It's the ironic thing is basically the frequencies I can't hear, like the crickets. It's up there with the crickets in that range, and so I had read about, and if you Google tinnitus cures, and like look for some serious, like I tried the vitamin things, like they had the ear vitamins or whatever, and it's basically a scam. I took them. Look, I took like, I think they said take 6 pills a day, and I mean it was expensive, and it came in a 60. So it was every 10 days I was buying a new jar of these pills, and it was like I did it for 3 months. It was ridiculous. It was like $180 a month. I did it for 3 months and not a bit of change, not a bit of change. So I was like, yeah, that's not the problem. It's not physiological. This one study in Europe that they started doing, and they were doing it in different cities in the US, but they hadn't come to LA yet. And I was on the email list for it. And occasionally back when I signed up for it, I would get an email from them. And they basically, what they said is they do, it's a combination of electrodes and massage, I guess, of some kind, maybe massage back there or something. And they said they reset your brain, and I'm like, I don't know if I want my hard drive zeroed out. Just not sure if I want to do that. So, yes, that's what I think, Hook. Exactly. I think your brain is trying to replace the tones that you've lost. And the interesting thing is, it's not like losing, hearing is a new thing. It's not like something that's technologically based necessarily. So, anyway. Okay, so I'm going to see you. No worries. Start making dinner, Kathy. Gosh, you are such a trooper to stick with us. Beer is homeopathic. Yeah, we're going to see if this live chat may have to be moderated a little bit later. Also, if you're not seeing the live chat right away, people, it usually takes 24 hours for it to show up on the videos. If you go back and watch the old live streams, they're there. And I understand if you don't have the live stream, it makes it really difficult sometimes to watch this video because I'm reacting so much to what's there. And I always forget. I apologize. I always forget to read the question that I'm answering. Yeah. So Pepper said, so anyway, Pepper, yes, the answer is yes, Pepper. It's like, what was the question? So I'm trying to remember to say, I'll say, okay, see you Wednesday, David. You take care of yourself. Okay. You're still in the, tomorrow's super. Does that mean you have to wait in line for hours and all that garbage? Oh, gosh, you poor thing. Okay, everybody, take care of yourselves. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Again, thank you, Peter, for the super chat. That was awesome. And I'll see you tomorrow, Lord willing. Okay, here we go. End stream. I'm going to leave the live chat up.